call tonight's meeting to order. Kathleen Allen, Ryan Chetney, Tom Chapa,
Here.
Heather Del Conte,
Here.
Brandon Legault,
Here.
Linda Serino,
Here.
Samuel Tripp,
Here.
Roomba Kawaja. If you would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is the floor to the public. If you would just give me a moment, I have something to read before the community is called up to the mic, or no mic, up to the table. Public session of the board meeting. It is expected that speakers will conduct themselves in a civil manner and will be ruled out of order for any statement that constitutes a direct threat against officers, employees, or students of the school district, or that is obscene. No personal attacks will be tolerated, nor should any speaker address specific district personnel or students by name or suggestion. Questions or comments concerning matters that are not on the agenda will be taken under consideration and referred to the superintendent for appropriate action. Members of the community may comment on any matter related to district business. The board president may request a brief description of the topic the speaker plans to address. Any group or organization wishing to address the board must identify a single sports spokesperson, and presentation should be as brief as possible, and no speaker will be permitted to speak for longer than 3 minutes. If I could now have Sean Callan.
I'm a guinea pig. Perfect. Good evening, everybody. As always, oh, girls, hold on. No, talk to them. I would like you guys to come up and stand behind me. As always, I appreciate your time. I'm here tonight to bring awareness to an opportunity that was taken from these girls that are standing here behind me. While I'm reading the words that I have written, it's very important that you all clearly understand that what I'm presenting to you is not about me. It's not about another parent or parents. It's not about a coach. My 3 minutes will be about 5 student athletes, 4 that are here behind me. This is about them. They started their basketball season on November 18th with 7 other girls. These girls earned starting positions on their team through hard work, dedication, on and off the court. They led their team to a 12-8 record, winning 12 of their last 16 games, under the coaching of the newest and already one of the best coaches in the district, name not be mentioned. When they didn't have games, they committed to practicing 6 days a week for 2 hours. Most importantly, each of them followed the code of conduct, maintained good grades, and contributed to a positive school environment. The last day of their season was February 13th. The varsity girls had a successful season as well, in a first-round game in Section 3 playoffs. The varsity team was short-staffed with only 7 players, so the varsity coach had asked the 5 JV starters to attend the varsity practices. Though their season was over, to improve the quality of preparation for the varsity team. You really need at least 10 players for an effective practice in basketball. These girls attended the varsity practice, pushed the upperclassmen that they aspire to be like someday, and were excited for the varsity team headed to sectional playoffs. The varsity coach then asked for the 5 girls to be in attendance, dressed and on the bench in support of the varsity players for the first round game at Bishop Ludden. The request was rejected, and the girls that had extended their commitment to the program, practicing for hours after their season was over, were denied the opportunity to be a buck on that day, supporting their peers. Subsequently, one of the 5 girls was asked to dress for the game, but she didn't understand why the other 4 couldn't as well, and declined the offer. What a team player Adriana Ellis. I'm sure that meant a lot to your teammates. The varsity team played really well in their game, though came up short. It was ironic, It was ironic though, is at the end of the game, with just about 2 minutes left, Bishop Ludden put in 5 GV girls to gain the experience of being in this moment, sectional playoffs, smiling from ear to ear, preparing them for future successes in basketball and life. Now, if I could refer to the 2019-20 Oswego City School District Board and District goals found on your website. Goal number 1, facilitate a culture and climate of inclusiveness and opportunity to support all students in reaching their full potential. Great goal. How are we doing? You wrote this goal, and you're not following it. I think I read inclusiveness in that goal. What was the reason for excluding them from the invite of the coach of the program? I read opportunity in that goal, and they were not given the opportunity. Is it possible that personal agendas are getting in the way of district goals? What really would have been the downside of these 5 girls dressing for another basketball game? I think these are hardworking, well-behaved, dedicated students of the Oswego City School District, and they earn this opportunity, and they deserve an honest explanation. Thank you for your time. Thanks, girls.
Mayor?
Sean?
Or the board, who made the decision that girls couldn't sit the bench? Huh?
That was a AD decision, because that's where they,
But it was not a board decision, right?
I didn't hear the answer.
ultimately our athletics are decided by our AD.
All set for the next person. Next person is Jeff King.
This is a continuation of what was just mentioned. I think it was unfair to the JV girls that got asked to move up for sectionals. They agreed to go to a sectional game a week before the game, and then 3 days before were told they couldn't play. And I've heard that the program is under a microscope, but I think it should have been addressed after sectional play, not during sectional play. Like he said, these 5 girls have dedicated the season, were asked to move up, and then were denied 3 days before. I don't think it's fair to them. I'm gonna use my daughter as an example, so she knows I'm gonna. We moved to Peru many years ago. When she was in 6th grade, she was asked to practice with the JV team up in Peru. When we came back here, she was in 7th grade. She was asked to move up to the 8th grade team for basketball. In 8th grade, she was asked to move up to the 8th grade, in 8th grade, she was asked to move up to JV volleyball and JV basketball. So she's been on that program for 2 years now. It's my understanding that the board is reconsidering moving kids up. I don't understand why. If they've been moved up for 2 years, all these girls have been moved up for 2 years now in a basketball program. Why not let them succeed and continue their goals? If you have a student in a class that's get all A's, A pluses, you're gonna push them to go to advanced classes and better themselves. Why can't you do the same for the athletes? Thank you.
Before you sit down, I have a question, and I'm just a bit, I need clarification. Sean had said that his concern was the girls were invited up to sit on the bench,
By the varsity coach, yes, at their
to
last
sit
meeting,
on the bench during the
to be-
sectional.
to be part of this varsity team.
No, that's the part I want clear.
They were supposed to dress in uniform.
And sit on the
Right.
bench and cheer them on. Your concern is that,
No, Linda, they were asked by the coach to, if I'm hearing you correctly, to play in the sectional game
They-
and join the varsity.
There was 7 girls on our varsity team when we got the sectionals. If you have an injury and if you have a girl that gets in foul trouble, you need 5 girls on the court all the time. These 5 girls were gonna, our understanding was they were gonna dress in uniform, be on the bench in case they were needed. They were not
that's the
expected,
clarification I
right,
need.
they were not expected to play in the game. I don't think any of them,
Right,
you know,
right.
expected
Now
to
I
play.
understand the issue,
But-
but I didn't.
As he said, the other team let their JV girls play the last 2 minutes of the game because they were ahead. So these girls were there to support the varsity girls and to be there if they were needed.
Thank you for clarifying.
And they were still offered a chance to ride the bus and be with the girls, correct?
But they could
And
not
to
be in the
go
game.
but they couldn't play in the game.
Right, they had to sit on the bleachers
Okay,
with the.
but did everybody take that advantage and go
They were at the
and
game.
and cheer
Yes.
them
Not on the
on?
bus, yeah.
All of
They were there.
all of the
Yep.
girls?
Yeah.
That's great.
Next is Elena DeBlasi and Amanda Conley.
Hi, my name is Elena Blasi. I was invited by Coach Beers to play lacrosse over the summer with the Statistical varsity team. He then asked me to play JV this year. I became aware of the fact that I might not be allowed to play up this year, and I did not understand the reasoning behind this. However, I am always trying to get better. I go to clinics and play for the 4th ranked team in the nation. I get good grades and I'm in accelerated classes. There is no reason to not let me play besides the fact that you just don't feel like it. Other middle school students got to play on JV teams with no complaints, and because of one sport, you are punishing me in my athletic career. This isn't fair because I've been working on my lacrosse skills since kindergarten, always trying to get better. I deserve a shot on that JV team just as much as any other middle school student who already got to play their sport. None of you have ever seen me play and know nothing of my skill set, so you cannot say that I am not good enough because you have no idea. It is not rational to change the rule in the middle of the year for no reason. Although I cannot make the decision for you, I would like you to know that I will work my butt off and always give 110% at any level or on any team. I would also like you to know that I have played and won tournaments in Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, proving my team isn't just a community team. We compete, work hard, and as a result have earned our ranking. I would also like to point out that if lacrosse was a fall sport, we would have gotten to play, not being affected by other complaints, which to be honest shouldn't be affecting us even now. I cannot make the rules, but I will follow the ones you make. However, if you choose to not allow me to play, don't make up the excuse that I am not good enough when none of you have ever seen me play. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amanda Connolly. I've played lacrosse since kindergarten and I play year-round. I want a challenge because my overall goal is to be as good as I possibly can be at the sport I love playing. I want the same opportunity to play at a higher level just like my classmates did. I've worked my butt off since I started playing, just for this chance. I played on a club team since 2nd grade and have accomplished many things with them. And one of them is being ranked 4th in the nation. I am in two accelerated classes and work just as hard in those classes to be a successful student as I work in sports to be a successful athlete. In conclusion, I want this opportunity to reach my overall goal, which is to play lacrosse in college. Thank you.
Susan DeBlasi?
So before you talk, I just want to clarify a couple of things that it's a theme coming out in some of the things that have been said. First of all, the board did not change or make a policy about APP. We did, however, have a very lengthy conversation, so if anyone's interested in the conversation that ensued in this board about the APP, it was the first meeting in January, I believe, right? First meeting in January, so if you want to review that.
I read the minutes.
And that was after a subcommittee was,
There was a whole subcommittee that was formed, and they brought their recommendations to that meeting, and we had a conversation about it. We did not change it, and one of the things we did determine was we couldn't make a policy because we couldn't make a comprehensive policy that would fit every sport and all of the uniquenesses that go into, who moves up into what sport. We did defer to our AD, and we did ask the AD to make sure that the APP follows what the state recommends for that policy.
I happen to teach the APP and all of the New York State Public High School Athletic Association rules to the kids up at the college because they're future coaches. So I have to be current and up to date on it, and I'm well versed in what the APP requires. So if you have any
I'm just letting
questions
you know
about it,
that
I'd
we
be
didn't
happy to
change,
share that too.
we didn't make a policy about it.
There was
we
a
didn't change
message
it.
sent out that said we will not be allowing 7th graders to move up, and it didn't come to me, so I guess I can leave that to somebody else if that's part of their comment, but that's contrary to what was practiced in the fall, so that is a change in policy.
No,
Whether it's
a
your
change in
policy or not, it's a
practice,
change
not
in
policy.
practice.
It's a change in practice, and we did defer to our AD to take our concerns and create, the practices that she feels fit. So I'm just making that clarification that it was not a board directive, and we are definitely trusting our AD with how she feels it needs to be applied.
Well,
For the
I
best
guess,
interest of the students and to reflect the goals and the missions of the sport.
Was there a message that went out?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It wasn't directed by the
It wasn't a
board.
directive from me either.
there have been several messages that have been sent out, so.
Phone messages, letters, what, email?
Oh, no, there was no formal message to everyone, just to,
Text. From who?
I got emails.
From, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Bowers.
Rhonda.
And to be clear, we're talking about seventh graders being moved up into JV, correct?
Correct.
And the 8th grader as well.
I can show you the text if you are interested. I can.
Yes, we were told it was policy from the AD.
In an email told me it was a policy.
The directive of the board, if you go back to that board meeting, the video from that board meeting, you'll clearly hear the board gave Rhonda a directive to really just pay very close attention to the APP process and the guidelines that are provided. We had put together a subcommittee after there's been a lot of discussion about APP at the board table for the last 2 years.
Last
And-
7 years.
Yeah, and we put, and we put a subcommittee together of board members, Rhonda, myself, and Rhonda did a beautiful job of presenting APP and trying to make us understand more clearly that this was an opportunity to level the playing field for exceptional athletes that go through the process and have been cleared to do that. And after some debate, even at the board table, it was decided that we should continue to follow that process, provide that opportunity for our student athletes. And the directive to Rhonda was simply, put a pretty strong lens on this, and let's make sure that we're doing it properly so that we no longer have to continue to talk about this all the time.
Well, I would challenge them that maybe watching the kids play would be part of that directive.
And there's more than that too. I think the board was concerned with younger players taking the place of older players who, you only have so much time to play sports. And this is a public school.
And start an intramural program, that's what you want, start an intramural program.
We'd love to, okay, but
And
there's
go find
economy
the money
behind
for an
that as
intramural
well.
program.
That's what we did
We-
this year for the middle
Good.
school.
Yeah.
To start
Because
looking
there's
at-
also the side of competition at a varsity level, and that should be rewarded to people that work hard to achieve,
Okay, we
life
had,
ready.
sorry, Sean, this is why we don't do a dialogue during
yeah.
public session, is because it
I
shouldn't
didn't
be a
start it.
conversation like this.
I didn't start it.
So Sue gets her chance to talk now.
Okay. Well, first off, I kind of am always wearing the same thing, so it's not that I don't have laundry, it's just it's Teal Tuesday. And in recognition of, Tell Every Amazing Lady about ovarian cancer and the detrimental side effects. And it's, it's an emotional subject for me, so I'll just leave it at that. I always wear teal, sorry, you see me in the same clothes. Okay, so, the information I wanted to share obviously got a little bit sidetracked, so I hope you'll forgive me if I'm a smidge over my 3 minutes. But I wanted to tell a story about when I was 7 and I wanted desperately to play softball, and my birth date was such that I was not going to be eligible unless I could prove my worth to the powers that be. And so I worked every single day until I could meet the standard that was expected of me, and I got to play not only for my dad but with my sister, because it was the only year that we would have been on the same team. So that was a huge accomplishment for me, and I spent all my free time doing it, and I played softball along with several sports up until 7th grade when I was cut from the modified team. I'm probably sure that stung a little bit, but I don't remember that anymore. What I remember is going to Coach Beal and saying, I want to be your manager. I want to practice every day with this team and get better. And he allowed me to do that, and the following year I made the team, and by the time I was a sophomore, I was starting catcher on the varsity team, and I was a starting catcher for 3 years. So that was an accomplishment to me that I was really, really proud of, and when I look back, I don't remember the sting, I remember the comeback, not the setback. And that's the message that I'm here to talk about. I mean, the APP can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. I'm highly ingrained in athletics in multiple communities for a lot of reasons. And so I don't want to debate the APP. What I want to challenge is that I want us to continually encourage our athletes, our students, our band members, everything, to excel, to try and do better. And I understand that you're saying they take place away from older students, but they're not stealing a spot if they've earned it, if they're better. The mission statement of the New York State Public High School Athletic Association says, and that is by anyone who doesn't know, the governing body of what we do when we have an interscholastic team, because they're in collaboration with New York State Ed. The New York State mission statement is to create programs that foster the quest for excellence by creating an educational and competitive experience with an atmosphere of sportsmanship. Successful programs develop individual and team potential by promoting high standards of competence, character, civility, and citizenship. So their focus is on an excellence in competition and competence. It's not about everybody gets a turn. Our student athletes, when they graduate, our student band members, our theater, our drama people, when they graduate, they're not going to get a job because they turned in their application first. We challenge ourselves with a school motto that says, fully prepared and life ready. How is it that we're challenging them to be fully prepared and life ready? It's not a matter of getting your application in first, it's a matter of having better recommendations. It's not a matter of having the job longest to get the promotion, it's a matter of doing the best service while you're there. So we need these kids to start understanding that it's about quality, effort, performance, not about wait your turn and then you get a chance. And that's the difference between interscholastic athletics and intramurals, or anything else. I dare challenge, I don't know if that timer was for me, but I'll wrap it up if it was. I don't think anyone sits at the band director's side and says, this person needs to be first chair because they're a senior, they've paid their dues. Nobody goes into the academic departments and says, this person needs to be in honors because, they're older and they'll feel bad if somebody else is smarter than them. Nobody says to the theater production, you need to put this person in as the lead because they've been around. And you know what? I know it because my niece didn't get the lead. And nobody went around crying and complaining because they didn't get it. A 7th grader was in that play this time, and I heard he was amazing. And I coached him once in soccer, and he's a great kid. But did he take the spot away from anybody else? Are we talking about that, or is it only always about athletics? And that's my concern.
I know, when we were talking about this, my experience, which was quite a while ago with my grandchildren, my oldest grandchild was moved up and sat the bench, where he was, at the top of the JV team and played. And then he got moved up and he sat, and I know as a parent or as a grandparent, I was really, because he quit. His senior year, I'm not gonna play. So there's kind of a balancing act here.
Which is why we didn't come up with a policy, because it has to be a balancing act.
I mean,
New York
that's
State
my
mandate says
perspective.
that they're supposed to be able to play in 50% of every contest.
Well, he didn't.
And I'm just telling you what the recommendation is. If you adopt the policy, that's part of what goes along with it. And both Coach Beers and Coach Fierro, I don't know, I'm not supposed to say names, you didn't say names. Oh, sorry. I'm not supposed
Well,
to.
even on
They both
JV
assured that not
basketball,
only
they
would
don't
they
play
play
50.
every game, they would play virtually all of every game, the 3
So-
of them, so.
Even my youngest played varsity this year, and he did not play 50%.
No, then I'm sorry. This is if you're moving up, if you're moving a child up into an advanced
I was
placement.
gonna say.
So an
that
11th
certainly
grader
did not
playing on
play.
varsity and not playing, and that, yeah, it stings. Sometimes they choose to remain on a team because they want all of the things that comes along with it, camaraderie, sportsmanship,
Wow.
team, work, and companionship. Sometimes they choose not to stay for those reasons, Every kid has their own prerogative, you can't play everybody.
But I'm just trying to give you different perspectives and experiences along the way, and we brought that in discussion to a lengthy discussion about our own experiences with athletics, and that was just, we didn't.
One of the things I cut out for time, since you're talking about your experiences, I just wanna run the numbers. You had 7 or 8 kids brought up this year through the APP. If you run that statistically, you're talking about less than 2% of the athletic population and less than half of 1% of the entire student body. So this is, as you said, a lot of conversation about something that is very, very small and impacting a very few number of people. The people that get the benefit, it's huge. It's a huge benefit to them. So I'm just saying, statistically speaking, we can't all share every single example because, no offense, there's only 14 of you up
Well,
here.
you're speaking from your experience, I'm trying to give you.
I
my
actually
experience.
didn't say any of my experiences, I just talked about the rules and how I would like to see us as a community move forward. Removing athletics, separating it from anything else, making it equal to band, to theater, to arts, to music.
So with all due respect, I think you could, because your time is
We
up,
could,
it's
yeah.
probably be done, but that was why we did not create a policy,
Yeah.
was to make it equivalent to those things, so.
So I think, I don't normally speak on this, but I think I'm going to. I think Rhonda's got a lot of work to do, right? This is something new that we've been working on for a while. This has been a kind of a thorn in the side for years and years, and it was even before I was on this board. So there's been a lot of discussion around it. We put some attention to it this year, and I hear that the attention has made it to the public, and it keeps coming back to the board. And the board had discussions on this, but ultimately, we leave that decision up to Rhonda. That's why we didn't, as Heather had mentioned, we didn't put a blanket over it. We didn't put a policy over it and said, here's what it says. Rhonda should be and should know who those exceptional athletes are. They get moved up, or what programs need to have people moved up based on need, right? But that's, again, it's new, right? We're talking about it. We're bringing it to light. Doesn't mean that things can't change, doesn't mean that we can't work through things. I appreciate the feedback, and certainly the kids that are here, I appreciate your hard work and time, and it doesn't go unnoticed, right? And I don't want you to think that it goes unnoticed. So I think there's opportunity here in this discussion. That's why a policy wasn't made. And we will, obviously the board will work with Rhonda, and we continue to ask for the feedback from the public and from the kids, right? So the only way to get things better and make things better is to be able to get this type of feedback. You take a step back, you look at it, and you move forward. So we could sit and debate all kinds of different things statistically all day long, past experiences, you know, all that stuff, but at the end of the day, you wanna make sure that we're doing what's best for the kids. And it's the kids as a whole, not that small group, right? So I think it's gotta be, Rhonda's has a tough position, because she's gotta look at a big picture. Sometimes we tend to focus on, isolate on our small little home groups at times, but when you're at a board level and you're at Rhonda's level as an AD, it's a bigger picture, right? It's all people involved, and I don't know a lot behind of what Rhonda does. I don't know if she goes to every game or every practice or what, but I do know that she's engaged with her coaches. But ultimately, we've given her the ability to make those decisions and to work with it.
And Brandon, I'll just tack on to that, because I was, along with Sam, on that committee that met with Rhonda as that, the subcommittee. And that was one of the reasons that we said, this has gotta be a board decision, because 4 of us sitting in a room are not gonna decide this. When you look at, my kids were in musicals, and some of those leads went to much younger kids. Oliver, I remember when Sam was so anyway, Rhonda did give us the numbers. We asked for numbers for Sam. It was what, like the last 8 years, right? Mm-hmm. So we had all the backup that she gave us, and we decided that it needed to come to the board, because we didn't feel that the 4 of us as a subcommittee should make that decision. But part of, the other part that I'm hearing that Rhonda does do, the AD does do, is she gave us the numbers, and she also does go watch these kids in phys ed classes, and she goes to these games. I've seen her at so many different games. I mean, I don't know when she's ever home. But she is involved in watching the kids play and the athletes, because she's said to us that there's been times where she's watched a student athlete and she's pulled them and said, no, they're not ready yet. And there's been times where the physician said, no, they're not gonna pull them up. So they're not pulled up for many reasons. But I just wanted to give that back up and that clarification from that subcommittee meeting.
And if you're familiar with all that, the decision, it just isn't based on athletic ability. There's the social development part of it. There's a lot to it. Right, there's a lot to it. You know, you take, and I'm gonna give an example. You take an 8th grader and put them in a varsity locker room or a JV locker room. Can you imagine what that 8th grader may be hearing or be seeing? Just because she's athletically able to be there does not mean that they are physically, emotionally, or mentally ready to be able to handle that either. So,
And that's part of the process.
And that's
for
part
them
of
to be evaluated
right.
to decide if they're.
And it's a big process. It's a lot to do with. And the best thing for us to do is look out what's best for the student as a whole, not just based on the athletic ability, right? So, again, I think there's opportunity, right? I think this is a great meeting. It's a great time for the athletes to come out and the parents and supporters to come out and voice their opinion. And it gives us another ability to go back and look and work with Rhonda to see where we can go from it. So that's kind of where I stand with it. I'm not throwing my arms in the air, and that's why we don't have a policy. So we always can work to improve, so.
So Sam wants to say something, but this is why we don't do the give and take, because we don't have, everyone represented here. And we have half truths and half facts and perspectives, and that's why we don't engage in this typically, but
Well, we're
Sam?
using up 30 minutes responding to 3-minute.
And I have a
Talk, so-
60-minute superintendent's
Yeah.
report.
I'd like to ask Susan a question. To the two issues tonight, the volleyball, the basketball and the lacrosse. I don't see the basketball as being an APP issue, am I correct?
It's not.
I wasn't speaking to APP.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's not.
Sean wasn't
Well,
addressing
only in
that.
that they were asked to
Separate.
move
No, I
to JV
know
varsity.
that, but
Separate.
It's not an
kind of all got grouped in together. And I
Yeah,
I'd
sorry,
like that
Yeah.
sorry,
clear,
no.
that because those JV girls are already on a JV team, the APP
Right.
goes
Yeah,
away.
there wasn't a good reason about why they didn't get went into that.
Okay. And the other thing, I was on that committee, and like Kathleen said, it was too big an issue for 4 people to make that decision. That's why we said it should be a board discussion. And we brought it to the board, and we had a whole discussion, and Heather told you what came out of that. We'll move forward. It's not the end of the world, and I'm sorry that these girls got disappointed this year, but you've got 3 more years.
I think the
Show us
takeaway
what you got.
from the administrative perspective tonight is that we, quite honestly, several board members went into that subcommittee having quite different opinion than what the board ultimately decided to do, which was allow the APP process to stand as designed. And that was because Rhonda articulated the philosophy around the APP and the comprehensive approach to clearing students based on social, emotional, physical development, athletic ability, in order to bring them up so that all else is equal. Doesn't mean they're gonna play, it means they are eligible to try out. And the result of those months of work was that Rhonda was charged with leave it alone, do it right, and move forward. But that's clearly is not the message that is out there. So now I have to circle around with Rhonda and make sure that we clarify how we're moving forward with APP, because this board changed no policy.
Or maybe have Rhonda do a presentation.
What's done?
We changed
We
no
did it.
policy, but if you listen to the conversation, we did say it was designed to be a rarity.
Yeah.
And as Dean just said, the APP gives them the chance to try out after the whole process has taken place. So that doesn't involve coaches promising positions before the process takes place. So I think if that's a piece of education that's come out of this too, then that's fantastic.
Okay. Thank you.
I do have other speakers on the sheet.
Are they about APP?
Daniel Conley.
Mine's a little different spin. I'm Amanda's dad. Like Amanda said, Amanda got asked if she wanted the opportunity to try out for the JV team from the varsity coach, the assistant varsity coach. I sent an email saying, where's the process going? We're waiting to hear, when is she gonna be able to take the test? I received an email back saying that all 3 lacrosse coaches, or all 3 levels of lacrosse coaches, were asked about Amanda's ability to play lacrosse. And the feedback was, she's a good player, but not ready to play JV. I asked who the coaches were, when they saw her play. Then it changed that only Coach Beers was asked about Amanda, and he was the one that asked her to play JV. The modified coach has never seen her play. The JV coach has never seen her play. Follow-up emails, more questions, I could be here another hour, but the short story is, I was told the last email that 7th graders aren't gonna have the ability to take the APP if there's a modified team. So because there's no modified golf team, 3 boys were able to play varsity golf, 2 didn't play in matches. So they're being discriminated at because there's a modified sport or a JV sport. There was a JV girl or a seventh grade girl to play JV sports. She was given the opportunity. They weren't even given the opportunity to go through the APP process, which is pretty sad. So, a lot of documentation too. So, and like the two girls said, they've worked hard. Kylie's here too, an eighth grader. All three of them worked hard. They play on club teams. They play year round. They work really hard. So,
Can you leave that with Karen for, to make copies for me?
mhm. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Next is Maria Malay. Oh, sorry.
I am Amanda's mom. First of all, thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak to you. And I did not know that there was no name mentioning, so I apologize up front if I skipped through one of my quick notes where there's names. I'm not as good as them, just rattling out, so I apologize, I have to read. But for the NICE athletic placement process, the APP, updated in December of 2017, the intent of the APP is to provide a protocol for districts that allows students in 7th and 8th grade to move up, or students of 9 to 12 to move down, allowing them to participate safely in an appropriate level of competition based upon physical and emotional readiness and athletic ability rather than age and grade alone. Furthermore, the APP is not to be used to fill positions on teams, provide additional experience, provide an opportunity for middle school or junior high students when no modified program is offered, or to reward a student. Instead, it's aimed to a few selected students who can benefit from such placement because of their level of readiness. The APP was revised to assess the student's physical and emotional maturation, physical fitness, and sports skills, so a student may be placed at a level of competition that should result in increased opportunity, a fair competitive environment, minimized risk, and a greater personal satisfaction. Ultimately, the Board of Education ensures compliance with the APP. It is intended only for the student who is truly at a level of physical and emotional maturity, comparable physical size and fitness, and sports skills that are commensurate with the level of competition that they wish to pursue. And this is why I'm here this evening. This is about a coach that expressed interest and requested to start the APP process for a 7th grader, and a student was denied consideration without the athletic director initiating or following the process and letting the APP evaluation process determine if the student had the physical and emotional maturity to participate in tryouts. This 7th grader is my daughter, Amanda Connolly. Our varsity girls lacrosse coach had asked Amanda if she would be interested in trying out for the team this spring. Amanda's a 7th grader who played in a handful of games last summer as a 6th grader with the JV and the varsity girls lacrosse team at the request of the coaches. These games gave them the opportunity to watch her play and socially interact with the team, assess her passing, catching, shooting skills, her physical ability, and her endurance. Amanda played meaty, attack, and defense during these games, even scoring a goal against a Fulton Raider goalie that is committed to the University of Notre Dame, an NCAA Division I school. Like Amanda's father said, he requested a meeting with her on February 26th, and she did not respond to the meeting request, but stated that she, and I quote, has spoken to all quotes about APP and how it is for the truly exceptional athlete, skilled physically and maturity. With girls lacrosse specifically, I have talked to the coaches at all 3 levels for their input. Your daughter is a good lacrosse player, but I believe from getting insight that she would be better suited and modified to continue to develop her skills and her peers. These decisions are not easy and not taken lightly. Several items, such as safety, physical, and cognitive maturity, will that student play over 50% of the contest? And I quote, I know I'm out of time and I have a lot to say, but this is not about a girl whose mom is asking why she didn't make the team. This is not about why she didn't get to play. This is about giving an athlete the opportunity to start and follow the process and let the process dictate if she's capable or not the opinions, not the beliefs of one certain individual. And I apologize, but I do want to read the end of it. As all of you, as members of the board, are ultimately responsible for ensuring compliance with the APP process. One of your goals is to facilitate a culture and climate of inclusiveness and opportunity to support all students reaching their full potential. So, I ask you tonight, how does this situation help achieve this goal? Why are student athletes being treated inconsistently and unequal with respect to APP? Please explain to my 7th grade student athlete, Amanda Connolly, the true reasons why she has been denied the opportunity to start the process so she could have the potential to play for coaches after they asked her. I do want to state that Amanda is an athlete. She plays multiple sports, and as she said, she plays community-based. She plays clubs with multiple teams. She plays ice hockey. She plays soccer. She played volleyball for the first time this year. But she's also a straight-A student. She is in 2 advanced classes, and she has learned through sports how to manage time, how to prioritize tasks, and be a better, well-rounded 12-year-old. So I ask, why? This is about equality. This is about having the same opportunity as the other 7th graders. Why is she being denied that opportunity? Thank you.
And the last speaker is Maria Hobel.
To the members of the Oswego Board of Education, my name is Maria Beth Hobel, and I stand before you today to appeal a decision on my pending and future employment with the Oswego City School District. I have worked as a substitute teacher for 10 years.
I'm not sure this is an appropriate thing, I don't know where you're going with this, but I wanna make sure it's appropriate for public
It is appropriate.
comment.
I don't
Personnel matter, we
mention
can
any
go into an
names.
exec and talk to you after the meeting if you'd like, but
There's
if it's
no
a
mention of names in here. Okay.
if you're already in a process, I'm not sure that we can.
I'm not.
I need an opinion of,
I would not
from personnel.
suggest that this be a discussion in a public session. If you do want to have an
We need to
executive
exhaust
session,
the
but
process.
we do.
It may be at another time, there'll be a conversation with the board in an executive session about the matter,
Okay.
but not necessarily with the person.
And we did get some council input.
We're working on
We're
this
working
matter
through
currently.
the process.
Okay, could I submit,
legal?
Yes,
could I submit, I've made copies for every board member, and I have
has to go through the process.
a file that I would like to submit. Do I wait to do that
Yeah,
for
let's have the
executive?
process go through and then,
Yeah.
She's gone
No,
through the whole
she's-
due
No,
process.
we're not gonna discuss it.
She can give it to a board member. Any community member can give something written to a board.
You can, although
To
we're
board
recommending
members.
that not happen.
So how will she be heard?
I'm
It's gonna be
protected,
heard through the process that we're already engaged in.
Well, from what
There's
we
an appeal.
understood, Dr.
I don't even know
Sweeney
who
told her
I'm
the
talking
next
to
step
right
is
now.
to go to the board.
I did not advise her to come to the.
No,
She
the-
has it and you
if,
have an
excuse
email.
me,
That's
in the
the writ-
contract, Article 7 of the OCTA union contract, if I may just make light of that, it says under Article 7, number 5, B1,
ma'am, before you go, I just don't wanna do anything that legally we shouldn't be doing.
okay,
And I need
I
to
have
get
not
some.
mentioned any names.
And I think too, in all fairness, it's not in her best interest.
So why don't we,
I just want to be heard, I want my,
and
My
the
appeal
board
to be
certainly
heard.
doesn't want to limit your opportunities for that, but let's make sure we're going through the correct process and
okay,
make sure that we're following things
Why don't we meet
in a good
tomorrow?
legal manner.
meet tomorrow? Okay.
Yep. You and I
we'll
and Dr. Sweeney can meet tomorrow with someone from Okta.
We want-
Is that satisfactory to
But
you?
I wanted to present this before the
It's-
board, I
it's
have the
not-
right to.
We're not there yet.
I
You have
have
something in
contract.
writing that you can leave, ma'am, do you have something you can leave in writing?
Okay,
You can leave it
so,
with the board clerk.
If you, and then
Yes.
she can distribute to us as
Maria, the board will only react to a recommendation from the superintendent. Since he hasn't gone through the process and ready to make a recommendation, there's no need for us to even be involved in it.
I've sent several
let
emails
it
to
work
Dr.
through.
Goy,
Right.
none of
But it
which
has
you've
to-
responded to.
Because it wasn't at the stage where
was
I would be
this-
responding to you, and it doesn't, those responses don't happen in a public forum like this. At some point, you'll receive a formal response from the district at each level, and you'll have an opportunity to present your
The contract
information.
states differently.
The contract
If I could read,
the contract talks about very specific language about rights and responsibilities from different stages of appeal, and ultimately that appeal would be to the board, but not in a public forum.
okay, then
That
tomorrow
would be
I
an
would
exchange
like,
of documents through legal, and
okay.
that's really to protect the district and the employee.
Okay, well,
offering-
I'm
I'm
trying
off-
to protect myself by speaking out about,
But sometimes saying too much may become,
it was
may be
very
hurtful to
professional,
you.
my letter,
I-
I assure you.
Could you leave your letter with, is it,
You-
if
I
it's
will,
fine,
I'm
can you please
leaving
leave
this
it with
entire
Karen?
dossier
Are you
of
gonna need that?
emails between the school district and myself and the OCT representative and the NYSUT labor relations specialist.
I can
This has
tell
been
you-
going on since January 23rd. I've been out of work since then, and I've been
But you're
terminated
continuing to share information that you
in
shouldn't be sharing
in a
public
way that is
before.
unethical, and I just want
That's
to be
your
heard.
opinion.
And so those
It's
packets are for the
improper.
board
This,
members?
yes,
You
this is
directed
all
those
through
to-
the board, and
Those
there
are
are
fine.
copies for each.
Right,
We
no,
told her
what I'm
that
just,
the
I'm
Dean
saying, I wanna make sure that
denied
people,
her
no, we don't wanna
appeal,
hurt
and that
her.
her
No,
next step would be
I
to
just
go
don't
before the
think it's
board.
good right now to have this conversation in a public
Okay,
forum.
well, she.
There
she
is a
does need to
process
speak to the board though, because there's the
I
actual
know.
process.
So
So,
these
Ma'am.
are
Ma'am,
for
ma'am,
all
you
the
don't have
board
standing,
members,
we don't need
and
to know
there
who you
aren't,
are.
I crossed out any name or mention of anyone as, and then these are all the emails that have gone back and forth, between myself and the school district and OCTA union rep, again, in the NYSUT
Maria, to
labor.
protect yourself, don't leave anything unless you've got copies of what you're leaving.
Yeah, I was just gonna
I
suggest
have-
that, do you have copies of everything?
I have copies
For
of
yourself.
everything.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yes, it's
so
all.
her union representative was
Ma'am,
incorrect
ma'am,
to
you're
tell
not,
her to
ma'am,
come.
ma'am, you don't have standing,
You
you
don't
have
have
not
to take-
introduced
you don't
yourself,
have
you
the
haven't
floor.
signed up, we don't even know who you are.
Okay, thank you for your time, and I suppose I'll.
Do you want to meet with me tomorrow?
I would love to meet with you,
We'll
Dr.
reach out to you
Gillespie.
first thing in the morning.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Next on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
Can I just clear something up though, because this is what I was saying to Heather, is as board members, we're elected by the community, and if a community member reaches out to us, whether they're a staff member, ex-staff member, anyone, they are allowed to write us letters and give us any kind of information that they deem necessary.
Well,
So
they
I
can
just,
do it.
But,
I-
but
If
there's.
there's a legal
but
proceeding
there's
guidance, I
personal-
don't think it's a good idea.
Right.
And there's
right, no,
personal
there's that part of it,
confidential
but
information, you
I'm,
should not.
but I'm saying, we shouldn't, as elected officials, we're not supposed to deter people from speaking to us either.
They can, but they need to speak about things that are appropriate.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
we
Absolutely.
at
I
the
just
outset
don't
said
want-
what was appropriate and what is not appropriate
Right.
is talking
But
about
Heather, I
active
don't want the
personnel
wrong message
issues.
to go out
The
either
message is,
about what,
let's clarify.
that you can't talk to board
Anyone's
members.
welcome
We
to
can-
come to the
that's
mic
clearly never
and
turn
share their
anyone around.
perspective. It goes to Karen's introductory statement that she makes before, but this is a very unique and very awkward situation where a current employee is coming to the mic asking to talk about her employment. Grossly inappropriate. We can't do it. We're following the process. We've been engaged in this very topic much of today and and many weeks before. And when it gets to the point where the board has to take action on that, we can't have it be poisoned by all of this public conversation. It's for our employees' benefit as well.
Right,
So
and I completely understand that, but I'm just trying to get my point across
Right.
that.
We're not
we are-
stifling comments.
And we
We've-
never
Right,
have.
we've-
that's what
We've had the floor to the mic for the last 50 minutes and welcomed feedback
And-
from community members, but
Had conversations we shouldn't have even had, so.
yeah,
We do need to make sure that we are following process.
right.
And that's part of,
Yeah,
when people come to us as board members, part of when we're talking to them is making sure that they're going through the right channels and the right
Exactly,
process.
right.
So,
And that's
I
what
just
wasn't
want that
happening,
out there,
so
that we're
that's-
not untouchable, I guess that's what I'm trying to
No,
say.
no, right. In the right scenario, in the right time frame, in the right venue, those conversations can and should be had. But we can't be airing employee grievances at the board meeting. Alrighty. Got a few things.
Yeah, start with something really positive.
Okay, let's talk about coronavirus. And all joking aside, I just returned early this morning from a weekend at the New York State Council of School Superintendents semi-annual conference in Albany, and there's a lot of conversation about the coronavirus. There will be a lot of guidance documents coming forth, not only from the New York State School Board, but from the New York State Council of School Superintendents, from many of the guidance agencies around student health and safety. A letter will be going to families later in the week from my office that provides a lot of information about the coronavirus, about common practices to keep yourself safe and healthy. Many of that information is going to be very consistent across the 9 components of the district. So parents should be looking for those, looking for that information later in the week. I wanted to also point out that the instructional calendar for 2021 looks a little funny next year. April break really starts in March, is that correct? And that will be coming to the board at the St. Patrick's Day board meeting for approval and adoption. Also, parents received a robocall from me last week about a change in the instructional calendar. I've determined that March 16th should now be a full day of instruction for students, and that's for a variety of reasons. We are very cognizant of our number of hours of instructional opportunities for kids, and that March 16th landed on a Monday. We struggle significantly with subs on Mondays and on Fridays, and it just seemed at that point in the year that our time would be best spent teaching kids. I wanted to just point out that Unified Bowling is underway. That's always exciting to watch. We've had a lot of great student athletes, a lot of things that were talked about even tonight about the performance of our student athletes we should be very proud of. I did want to also point out that I had talked somewhat about, in a previous board meeting, about doing a review of the Oswego High School, the instructional programs at the Oswego High School, the climate and culture of the Oswego High School. That work has been started with weekly walkthroughs and classroom visits at Oswego High School. And what will be coming up in the next few weeks are focus groups at Oswego High School with parents, students, and staff. There'll be a purposeful selection of students and parents that provide us with a real cross-section of perspective. And we're using the review platform that we used in 2014 when the Oswego High School was under accountability review for the New York State Education Department. And that's called the DTSDE rubric, which is our diagnostic tool for school and school effectiveness. We're going to hold focus groups of parents and staff that are invited, as well as students, that are really similar to the lunches that I do with students, just to provide informal feedback to help inform perceptions of the high school, our programming, our climate and culture, so that we can continue to make improvements. We'll overlay that information over Mr. Wallace's school improvement plan that was submitted for his school. So I wanted to point that out. The last thing, well, there's 2 additional things I want to talk about. The first is I met with a representative group of this year's new agriculture club. I've talked about the ag club before. I do want to give a shout out to Sean Nagel, Ms. Harrell, as well as Pat Wallace, who have embraced a charge that I gave them to really work diligently to bring agriculture and agriculture curriculum into the Oswego City School District so that we become the leaders in Oswego County in agriculture education. We're following the FFA guidelines so that we can become accredited in New York State through that association as an agriculture school. We'll be rolling in 3 agriculture courses in the fall. One is a structures course under technology. One is a version of in living environment. And the third one, sustainability practices in agriculture. Most of you know that this year the Ag Club, which is completely voluntary with those two staff members that I previously mentioned, they did egg hatching. It was shown live on TV. It created a lot of conversation at the Oswego High School. And next year we will have a full-blown curriculum for agriculture. Having said that, the Ag Club, which is very student-driven, asked to meet with me to talk about the idea of hosting the first Oswego County Agriculture Summit. And I met with a representative group of those students last week, and I'm going to be working with them to put together an agriculture summit that will invite representative students from all 9 component districts to Oswego on May 1st. And so more information will be coming about that. And what I like about this is an example of how student-driven curriculum, when worked simultaneously through administration and great dedicated faculty, can make change that is needed in our community. And Oswego County is rich with agriculture, and we're going to tap into that. The last thing that I'd like to do is a short presentation on a topic that we've had quite a bit of conversation about over the last several months, and that is about some needs that we have in phase 3 of the capital project. Karen, you might want to hit just that bank of lights. As you know, phase 2 of the capital project, which is scheduled to break ground later this spring, will provide significant improvements to the Oswego High School. At the Oswego High School, that will include a complete renovation of the Performing Arts Wing, a renovation of the main office, a complete renovation of girls' and boys' locker facilities, as well as some improvements that are less visible, like drinkable water and carbon monoxide detectors that are hardwired. A change in athletics coming over to the Layton building. Also includes a lot of significant work at Layton Elementary. The complete renovation of Layton locker rooms, classroom doors and windows, locks, carbon monoxide, potable water, all those important things that really span all 7 schools. Following phase 2, it also includes our multi-purpose field, which I shouldn't have forgotten that. That will include the removal of the existing Wilbur Field complex and the replacement with 2 Wilbur Fields that are end-to-end grass fields, as well as the construction of our multi-purpose field, concession stands, public restrooms, and team locker rooms on what is our existing softball facility at the high school. That's all to break ground as soon as weather permits. But now we're going to leap forward to phase 3. Phase 3 is where a lot of work happens at the Oswego Middle School. And as we reported out during the capital project presentations, the hundreds of those that we did across the community, as well as our marketing efforts to promote the capital project successfully, phase 3 will require 2 consecutive years of construction at the Oswego Middle School. So in the fall of '21, there will be a need to relocate the 7th grade cohort for 2 consecutive years to accommodate the significant work to be completed at the middle school. And as many of you will remember, the Oswego Middle School literally will be an internal gut. In addition to that, the exterior walls that are window walls also will be completely redone. We're talking about floors, asbestos removal, locker improvements, ADA compliance issues, the improvements in the corridor walls that are currently banks of lockers with glass panels above them that are no longer up to fire code. So in order to do that work successfully, we have to pull out half of the middle school students for 2 consecutive years, because the contractors and our plan for this construction will be 1 floor at a time. So there'll be significant disruption in the instructional program at the middle school, and if we don't start planning for that disruption now, there's some time issues related to this, and I really would like to get going on this and wrap this up before I depart on August 31st. So what's our need? We need to relocate approximately 290 students each of those 2 consecutive years. That requires us to locate 15 classrooms and a variety of smaller instructional and office spaces across somewhere else. We need to provide a gym, main office, nurse's office, and cafeteria. The considerations that have to be brought to the table: ADA requirements, requirements under the state education department, health and safety considerations, certainly cost is a major factor. Continuity of services that we provide, and time. I met with Mrs. Fierro, we started planning for this really about a year ago, with a pretty comprehensive team for transition. The principal at Layton Elementary at the time was part of that conversation. Certainly Dave Crisafulli, our superintendent of buildings and grounds, Nancy Squires, who supervises that department, and a whole host of other folks, because I had planned on bringing a recommendation to this board, and that we've talked about a couple times in executive session, and between me and small cohort groups of board members individually, and most recently, and I've talked, quite frankly, with Layton faculty and staff over the last year or so, several times. I also talked about my recommendation to the board at a most recent district home and school presidents meeting, because I wanted those people affected by the recommendation to hear it from me first. Recommendation. My recommendation to the board, and the reason I'm bringing it to you tonight is because of the time consideration. You asked us to look at a few other options, and we've done so. My recommendation, though, is a 2-year elementary redistricting that would allow for the repurposing of Layton Elementary School as an Oswego Middle School annex to provide swing space. And I provided you with some data. Currently, our schools are listed in the left column. The center column is a current enrollment snapshot as of today. Certainly, we don't anticipate those numbers to look exactly like that in the fall of 2021. And then the projected enrollment for those schools after that redistricting. So it's about 70 students. If you jump to the next slide. So this is what the detail looks like. It would require that approximately 7 additional students would go to Kingsford, Fitzhugh, Riley, and Minetto. That's 3 to 4 additional classrooms per school. Because remember, right now, Layton is our smallest elementary school with 14 classroom sections in grades K through 6. So that's 2 to 3 additional classrooms needed per school, core K6. Most district UPK students would be redistricted to Layton Elementary, would be swing space as well as a UPK center. Transportation rerouting needs to be done. A year ago, Nancy and I worked with Tom Gunn to do a redistricting plan based on this recommendation, just to kind of run it through to see what it would look like. And then certainly the details around elementary staff reassignments, because that's not just something that happens arbitrary. We have to work closely with the Oswego Teachers Classroom Association. We have to work with the building administrators, the principals group, which under our current practice provides them with right of first refusal on internal transfers. So collaboratively, and AEP group, the principals group sat at our planning meeting as well. They need to work together to provide seniority transfers as well as internal transfer requests with principals, so that there's a fair and equal distribution of the talent that exists in Layton currently into our other 4 schools. Some other considerations were other spaces that might be available in our district or community. The cost of portable classrooms, which was something that board members asked us to look for, and I'm going to share some data about that in a minute. Portable classroom placement, where would these portable classrooms go? What would that look like in considerations? We believe that if we were to go to a portable classroom option, whether it would be through a purchase or a lease, that it would be best suited on the existing property at the middle school, where the portables that are there now, which we are having removed this spring. But there are some other issues related to capacity for football, where that space may be necessary for us to run modified and varsity practices simultaneously, which has been the request of the new varsity coach, which is coming to the board tonight. As well as details from the previous slide. Again, time, money. Time is the biggest variable for me right now, and maybe you won't believe that when you see the cost of portables. So this is the portable classroom option. There are two options that we think, that we wanted to share with you. It's important to point out a few things. These quotes that came from this particular company have expired, so these aren't necessarily as accurate as they might be, but this is a very good ballpark of what the cost of the district would be should we go to the option of portable classrooms. Option one would be for the district to purchase with turnkey installation, which would mean potable water, air conditioning, site preparation, and insulation, $1.6 million. Option two, this is a 30-month lease with turnkey installation, $2.2 million.
Dean, how many buildings are you talking about?
We're talking about 20, that would be 20 classrooms, so it would be, I think, 4 units that are joined. Because there's a need for at least 15 classrooms and smaller instructional spaces as well. So you could buy at 1.6, or you could lease for 30 months, although we really need 24 months of instruction, at $2.2 million. This is 12,000 square feet of building at their mid-grade construction, so this isn't top-of-the-line stuff. It would include restrooms, sinks and restrooms, as well as air conditioning. However, remember, that doesn't provide us with a gym, cafeteria, or several other special places.
So, option 1 and 2, the same building?
Yeah, option one is to buy, and option two
So
is
it's
to
more
lease.
expensive to lease
To
than to
lease.
purchase?
Mhm. They want you to buy them.
Apparently.
Yeah. So those are the options, and it really, it boils down to the recommendation that I've made to the board before, but we thought it was important to have this public conversation, which is why I rolled it out to the home school president of Layton and to the faculty and staff, actually multiple times, because they put that question to me several faculty meetings ago, and I'm not gonna lie to them. Yes, my recommendation likely will be to further repurpose Layton, and I think it's important to point out here that we're not talking about closing Layton School as an elementary school forever. That's not what I'm recommending. What I'm recommending is that during that 2-year period, when we must renovate the Oswego Middle School, that we do a redistricting and further repurpose Layton during that period. What happens beyond the 22-23 school year is a conversation and decisions that must be made by that current board and superintendent. So I'm just recommending what I think is in the best interest of the district financially today.
Dean, the numbers you had up there to lease and to buy,
Yes.
are those monies included in the capital project?
That's a great question. Those monies are not built into the capital project. So there's a monthly payment breakdown. I did the math for you just to give you an overall ballpark amount. But on the reason I went to a 30-month lease is $36,684.65 a month, plus $701,000 for installation.
I'm sorry, you said for 4 buildings or 5 buildings?
That's for the total 12,000 square foot. And then another $420,900.48 to remove them. And to bring the site back to its original format, because this would be on a stone base with an apron perimeter, similar to what you do if you bought a shed and had it delivered to your property.
So that money would have to be built into our yearly budget.
It either has to be built into the budget, which I'm telling you it cannot be, because right now we still don't know. We're treading water now, waiting for the governor and the legislature to decide what they do, and also to settle on our nuke negotiations, which are ongoing. So what does that mean? That means that, can you go back a slide? Sure. That 1.6 million or 2.2 million comes out of the capital project, so something has to give.
Dean, will class sizes change if we had 70 kids per elementary school? I know it's all different age groups, So,
Class sizes wouldn't change because this recommendation is not being made to cut staff or to create savings for the district. The same number of students and teachers would be displaced to 4 other schools.
Like a shift.
So,
Yep. We'll shift 2 kindergartens, 2 first, 2 second, 2 third, 2 fourth.
so with option one, has there been any talk about if we bought the buildings, what we would use the buildings for after the fact?
No.
Okay, I have some thoughts.
Yep.
That you're probably not gonna like.
And let me, maybe, before
but-
we open, let me
well-
just clarify, and then you guys can
Okay.
talk. This is my recommendation. We've been looking at this for over a year. I have been so heavily engaged in the capital project and planning for each phase that is coming, that my responsibility is just to give you my thoughts on what the recommendation is based on what I know our budget situation is, what I know our instructional needs are, but ultimately it's your decision.
Okay.
Repurposing Layton for 2 years.
Okay, so here's my thought, and you mentioned this a while ago, and
Yeah.
it's been racking my brain, how can we do this a different way, because it just doesn't seem to make sense to me. If you're talking about, I understand you want to keep, so there's 290 seventh grade students. There's 284 FLS students. And when you were talking about it, you talked about that 290 would stay here for those 2 years of middle school,
Yes.
correct? And in the meantime, you would displace 284, the same amount of kids, FLS.
Yep.
So you're keeping that cohort together, and yet you're displacing 7 other cohorts, K through 6. I guess I'm going back to, my mind's in a bunch of places with this. When we initially implemented UPK into every building, the intent was so that the kids would get used to their building, and then that was the same building that they would continue into. It was. I was on the board when we did it.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing that was the conversation, maybe at the time, I wasn't in this job then, but that's not the way it is now.
Okay,
Students
well,
enroll
anyway,
for
let
UPK
me-
and go
let me
where there's
finish.
an opening.
So UPK, our intent when we started it was to keep kids in the same building so they would get used to their building. It was an easier transition. I know that a lot of kids are transient in this district. It's our demographics. I get that. But if we could kind of keep them where they're supposed to be, that would be better. If we're putting kids first, and that's what I kept coming back to thinking about this, why wouldn't we consider using this part of the building for the 7th grade cohort, and moving the staff, the offices, to other rooms? Or you could even you would slash the cost of that, if you're talking, if that was 20 classrooms, you could do one of those portables for 4 classrooms for a fraction of the cost. Then it's not taking so much, that way you're not displacing the Layton kids and then saying, well, the next superintendent can, because their vision might be different for Layton, the board's vision might be different for it. I don't know, to me, it's like, to put it in really simple terms, if I was remodeling my kitchen, I don't call Heather and say, Heather, I'm gonna start using your kitchen for the next 2 years, and then you have to find somebody else, another kitchen to use. That's what I keep coming back to, the common sense way. You don't get my analogy there?
No.
Well,
I just looked at Sam.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
really
I
laugh.
think coming over to my
First of
question.
all, there are only
No,
6
no,
classrooms in the
Because if you have 200, if you're displacing 284 kids with 290 kids, why would I move?
The displacement of those
For 2
kids, are you
years and then bring them
keeping them
back?
together, or is it geographic, the disbursement?
We would do a redistricting.
So you are
in order to
having,
put 70
in
new
Minetto,
students.
there'll be, 10
would
of these, 10 of these, 10 of these.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't,
Yeah.
so you really are gonna be
It's a redistricting.
dispersing these kids.
So it doesn't necessarily only impact Layton kids.
Impacts the whole district.
It's a redistricting. It'd be the same emotional impact that any district goes through when they do a redistricting. We've done them before. They sting.
Right,
So
and
does
that's,
closing a school
but
sting.
that's what I'm saying, is your vision for what this building should be
seventh grade.
the next superintendent might not have that same vision
Well, yeah,
for that.
I hear you.
And I understand that
hear
you're
you.
trying to get ahead so that it's set for that next person, but.
You can't save it for the next person, I might point out.
No.
I
No,
would be
but-
happy to do that.
No, but are we putting kids first? Why not move the adults in this building that are more amenable to changes?
we
We
only have
just,
six
we just
rooms.
invested over $800,000 in this section of this building to put these offices. Now to tear it all up and go back to putting it
There's
back.
nothing, what would you have to tear up? That, the other building where you did take, that room where you did take walls down, I taught in a building that didn't have walls. It was, you could stand one end to the other. We were separated by bookcases. It worked, it was a great concept and it worked.
It didn't hear.
It didn't work for that.
It didn't work for that at all.
Well,
Which is part of the capital
in
project,
Vestal it did.
put the walls back
But
up and that.
anyway, I just,
It didn't work.
I just think that there's a better way to do it than displace, because let's face it, you disperse those Layton's closing.
So I,
You know
That's the
what,
bottom line.
I totally agree your plan is sufficient to get us where we need to go without redoing this. I think kids are flexible enough, they're here for an education, there are kids that come and go and they survive. I mean, to get down and redo this nitty-gritty stuff is silly at this point. I just think your plan is solid, and I would support it 100%.
This should have been, unfortunately, when all this was done, we were paying a lot of money for engineers and consultants and contractors to make these decisions.
Well, they have been part of it. Sam and I have
And if they're recommending that
Yeah.
this is the path that we go.
Sam and I are on that committee.
I don't think that we
so-
pump.
But they're not recommending.
That's not their
That's
recommendation.
not their
No, but they're
Although-
part of telling us.
But it's part of the risk mitigation of doing a capital project. There's not a capital project that's put out there that
Chris Dodd
says
came to the
there's not a risk
meeting and
to it.
said, Dean doesn't have to figure that out, that's what your company helps do, figure that out, where to put kids. He said that at the meeting, that,
No, what he was talking about, not figuring out where to put them, the logistics of the move, logistics of moves. That once we were in
It's
place.
a little late
how
in the
we
game
went
to start
back.
pumping the brakes and changing.
No, I don't think that has anything to do with that.
It's gonna
aspect of it.
create,
Yeah.
the urgency, there's several elements of urgency. One is, I wanna get this done for you, because I'm the guy that's been planning this, for 5 years. And I wanna get it done by August 31st, but we have to get going, we need to make a decision. You just tell me what that is, and we'll move forward. Because there's so many elements of planning. We have to work with our facilities department, because there'll have to be a transfer and storage of elementary furniture in order to move middle school level furniture in. Mary Beth has to work with Heidi and David and I in order to determine which classrooms would be used for what particular instructional area, what's most suitable. We don't want to get into, we thought about the idea, even if there was some alternative location in our community that we could lease, then you have to worry about all those considerations. ADA compliant, installation of our technology infrastructure,
Security.
health
is
and
huge.
safety, security, the Raptor system.
how many classrooms do you need
Bathrooms.
for the 7th grade?
15 or 20.
It's
20.
15. Yeah,
20 at the high end, 15.
The need, we need 15 classrooms and a variety of smaller instructional spaces for AIS, speech language pathology, reading, counselors, psychologists, a nurse, a gym, and a cafeteria. Those
Right.
are required under SED.
But what I'm saying is this building is already all of those things, it has the ADA, it's all
Right.
prepared,
But
I
and
think he's saying there's not enough space.
Right, there's not
And
enough space
we don't
because
have another
if we
dime
take,
to-
the few classrooms that are available on the other side of the secure doors, as well as the 6 classrooms, this is only 6 classrooms, this whole central office.
Right.
That's not,
Well, in the
it's
cost
not enough
of,
room.
like Sam said, you've already put
800,000 or more.
into this.
What Kathleen said is true. We were so careful when we did the renovation that if the day comes when enrollment goes crazy and you need another 500 student Layton Elementary, it can be again. we were careful not to, the sinks are original, the drinking fountains, the coat cubbies are original, but there'll be a cost associated with with bringing the middle school here. I don't think there's enough room at Layton to have Layton and middle school here. Just like there wasn't enough room to move that 290 students to the high school, because we looked at that too, because that was something that somebody wanted us to look at. We looked at that, there's not 20 spaces plus.
What's the cost of your proposal? Well, how much does it
Very
cost to
little.
redistrict and
It's-
to
I mean,
go
right,
through all of that?
We would do the
There's gotta be costs,
we have
I mean,
the-
the toilets.
Yeah, there's
toilets
cost,
and
but it's
rooms.
not $2.6 million. We would
Are
do,
you
we'd do
talking
the.
tiny
we
fraction
would-
of that, or are you talking half that?
A fraction of that.
Fraction of that.
Because we would move
Lot of
with our
Zip
in-house staff. We're not gonna do construction, we're not gonna, middle school kids, there's an ADA requirement for a certain number of bathrooms per certain number of students, but it doesn't say they can't sit on little toilets. They can. Linda Doty does, over at Riley, in the main office. I don't say that you, yeah, that's.
They can come out.
But-
Can you
TMI,
scratch that? Can you rewind?
I understand what Kathleen's saying, there's always tremendous sensitivity around closing or repurposing a school. If the end of the 2023 school year, this board and that superintendent decide that we need Layton back as an elementary school, it will be sitting here waiting for you. We're not talking about selling a building. And I'm not even talking about closing Layton as an elementary school
But you are, because
forever, but.
really, what are the odds that it's gonna start, somebody's gonna redistrict that into an elementary building? It's not gonna happen. Once
But
it's
that-
done,
but
it's
let me
done.
ask-
What are you
Let me ask this
talking
question,
about?
let me ask this question.
a
If
lot of it
that-
could depend on
We had
enrollment.
35, what do we have? 5,000 students in 2000, we have 35 or 3,700 now. The projection is not going up. We have this space. Eventually, one of them may close. It's gonna be on the horizon, it could be there. It may not, there may be a turnaround, all the DRI stuff might kick in, and things may go the other direction. But we should plan and anticipate where we are in terms of.
I agree with you 1,000%. The elephant in the room for the last 4 to 5 years has been exactly that. How many schools do we have open based on the enrollment that's in here? So even though this has nothing to do with that,
Right.
but at least it doesn't put us in a bad financial spot going the other way. I don't disagree with your recommendation.
I think too, it might be important to point out that, and I've always been quite clear about this. One of the charges to me as new superintendent in 2015 was close the school. And I said it in my opening comments the night of my swearing in. We will close the school, and
But
it
was
won't be
that-
done
was that-
emotionally. But I'm not saying that now. Instead, we decided that we weren't gonna close the school because that was about cost savings. We'll sell the school, we'll sell, we can't sell the schools because they're bonded. So we moved to Plan B, which was sell the Ed Center, and we did it. And repurposed Layton and put Ed Center offices into a school, and we love it. It was a smart move. But I'm not saying that now. We had some big plans for the further repurposing of Layton beyond our immediate need, which is to provide swing space for the middle school. But this building will be ready for either great alternative programs, lease space to city, or you can make it an elementary school again. I'm not recommending that you don't, but
It allows us
I
options.
won't be part of that decision.
It allows
Much
us,
more functional.
it allows us for options at the end of the day.
Right, but what I'm saying is to displace all of those kids and then displace them again, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, out of all of the elementary buildings that we have, and this is going back to my very first year on the board, out of every elementary building that we have, this one is the one that is laid out the best for an elementary building. ADA wise, I mean, you've got these big wide open hallways, the way this building was set up much better than the old school Fitzhugh, Kingsford. I mean, those are very old buildings. Riley is, stacked in the back. This building is laid out perfectly for an elementary. And to take that away from our district, I don't get it. When, yes, kids they can adapt, but so can adults. You can move
But
offices.
it's
We
not
don't
a
have enough
question of,
room now.
it's not a question of, we don't have the room, the cost is, I think, has to be foremost, considering the capital project is going through, to add any additional cost on that is just, in my mind, inconceivable. But the idea that, even though it's set out, it's also the lightest population, correct?
Right.
Our
Yeah.
elementary schools?
Smallest.
So we're
Right.
we're gonna adjust for the smallest population, I understand, but we're gonna have it anywhere.
But you
Even
used to
there's-
have over 500 people in this building, is that correct? There used to be over 500 kids in this building. So to say 290 plus 284 can't fit in here, and you know that those numbers wiggle anyway, that's not accurate. You can fit it here.
If that was
So
all.
to just, these
Well,
are,
we
and
can't,
I guess that's
we
what.
can't run
I
middle,
don't think
we
middle
can't
schoolers
run
and
middle
elementary
school
schoolers go together.
phys ed and middle school lunch periods with one cafeteria and one gym. The flip
Yeah,
side of that
But
argument.
you're saying that because you haven't thought that part through, and that's why I was saying, I'm sure that you didn't even think about this, and that's why I'm saying, give that some kind, some thought. Could it work here? Talk to Mary Beth. Could it work here? That's what I'm saying. Instead of just these blanket statements, no, it won't work. Because that's frustrating to me, because that's not thinking outside the box, it's putting us in a box, that this is what we have to do.
I think,
Are you
from
looking
my
for?
perspective,
We need to get rid
this has been a conversation that didn't just start. We've been talking about this, I've been on the board 6, 7, it'll be 8 years come May, and this has been a conversation that we've had many, many, many times, and we've talked about various things. I think they all went back to Dean, and he's come up with a very sound recommendation. I just, at some point, we have to let this thing roll out so we can start this project and get it moving. We've all got different opinions, but
Well, are you looking for approval? What are you looking for tonight? Or are you just making a
it.
presentation?
I don't wanna keep going back to the drawing board.
Okay.
You charged us to look
So-
at the high school, we did that. You asked us to price house portables, we did that. And it still comes back to this. I mean, we could close another school and redistrict, a Kingsford and make Layton, Riley, Minetto fit you our 4 elementary schools. But what makes most sense moving forward, whether I'm the superintendent or not, is the probability of repurposing Layton for other things, should the next board and superintendent decide not to make it an elementary school again. Kathleen's right. Likely, once we do this redistricting, unless enrollment booms, you're not gonna look to Layton as an elementary school again in the near future. So then the next question is what we would be talking about next year, which won't happen with me now, is then what? Well, there was a plan for that. An alternative high school, lease space to the city BOCES, the expansion of central office, a district-wide professional development space, but that's gonna be up to the next folks to decide. But, and I'm trying not to cloud that by saying, we're closing, Layton forever. That's not my decision. But I think that in this snapshot in time, that what's most cost-effective and makes the most sense right now is to further repurpose Layton for swing space for the middle school. It meets all the ADA requirements, SED requirements. We won't have to go out for a capital project. We don't need to be approval. We don't need approval from state ed because we're not closing a school. It's all about communication and marketing. That's all we have to do. But I'm sensitive to everyone's opinions. I share, listen, I went to kindergarten at Layton. I'm gonna walk out of the same school I started in. It's very emotionally charged. And I've worked everywhere. If Minetto closed, I would be devastated. Layton closes, I'm gonna be devastated. I taught for Kingsford for 10 years, I'd be devastated. I led Riley. I led Minetto. I was an intern at Fitchett. Let's close the high school.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. So, Kathleen does make good points,
She
and
makes great
and
points.
Layton has done an
And I
amazing job
respect-
making that family orientation in that school and making all those kids feel like they're a part of a family. So this recommendation does come with
It's
a
not
lot of
easy, and I tried to be
emotional
honest
problems.
with the faculty throughout the process, and it's not, every school feels that about their school. and it's hard.
So I guess, does anyone have more questions about the proposal? So do you want us to give you, I don't know what you're looking for.
I don't need an answer tonight, but I need the board to say.
I think
Get
you're
busy,
feeling
'cause
that
my
a majority of
checklist
the
is
board, Brian,
long.
did you have some comments? 'Cause
Got a lot to do.
haven't heard from you,
I'm absorbing it all.
absorbing it.
Pass.
I mean, I think
Roll
you've
call,
heard
pass.
from 4 that at least, feel strongly about supporting the recommendation.
Yeah, I think I need a formal directive from the board to either move forward with that
Just a
plan or not.
consensus?
It's up to Heather. How
Right.
you want to move forward with it.
Well, if you don't need a formal vote, let's just do consensus.
I don't need a
like we've
formal vote, I
done.
just need to know that it's the direction of the board.
All right.
Can we just step back and just think about it? I mean, you said you've been working on this for 2 years. Can the board at least think about
Yes.
the things that I've
I
said?
said I don't need an answer, I don't
So
need
we
an
can
answer
do it
tonight.
next
committee
time.
No, no, no,
that's
no.
been
We can do it
No,
on 17th.
you've thought about what he said, but what I'm suggesting, that's what I'm saying. Can you give, just give that some thought on how that could work? I mean, maybe Mary Beth will think about it for a week and say, it wouldn't work here. Instead of just jumping to this, I mean, it was just given to us, think it through and say, okay, if we had, just like one building for the Ed
I
Center.
just don't think, you're making some assumptions that it was just given to us. This has been a conversation.
The
that
details of this were just given to us. He just did the PowerPoint.
We've been engaged in discussion about this project.
But never here. It was always, just, in an agenda review, he would mention a few things. And so I know that it's been there, and so that's why it's been bothering me for so long, because I just think, isn't there a better way to do it that we're not gonna disrupt so many kids?
I did a presentation in the executive session because we didn't want to create hysteria in the community until I had an opportunity to speak with those that are most effective first. The board can think about it. I'm not gonna dig into redistricting tomorrow. We have till the fall of 2021. But I wouldn't want to be the incoming superintendent and
And
have
you
to
don't.
deal with this, and
Have
I'm
that
trying
money.
to
You're
do
gonna
this for you.
redistrict.
So I'm in favor of at least getting each person's perspective quickly on this, because I'm with you. I don't think we should be dragging our feet at this point.
And if you don't need a formal vote, then you can consider what you hear today, or you can bring it up again, depending on how confident you feel,
I think you go
based
around
on people's
and ask.
opinions. Because I think
Yeah.
Kathleen was hoping that people would consider her perspective, the things she's presented tonight, and take them, into
Right.
account. But, you can say whether or not that's something you're interested in.
Well,
We
I
can
think you
start
know
with
how
Linda.
I feel. How do you,
Okay.
I'm in support of Dean's suggestion.
Sam?
I think we've got to, since the monies to do anything aren't in the capital project, and it's got to be put into the budget, I'm not recommending that we increase our budgets any more than what we have to do for instructional, so I got to go along with Dean's plan as it is written.
But Sam, what money? That's what I don't understand, because isn't that gonna cost money? So what money are you talking about?
Well, you're talking
that
about
this would
portables.
cost? If I'm saying, just think about it.
You're talking about 1.6 million
No,
for portables.
I'm not,
You're-
that,
but-
you
but
didn't
you're
listen to what I said.
You're also trying to.
You didn't listen to what I said.
You're
I'm
also
saying-
trying to put more classrooms in here than what's available in this, from a space perspective.
And all I was asking was just for the courtesy of, if somebody makes a motion to table something, I know that this isn't a formal motion, we've always been courteous to other people to table that motion, even if we were ready to vote on it. And that's all I was asking for, was just for you to think about it, to give it some thought.
The board
Make-
can
you make a
the
good
board
point
can
there.
talk about it and please give me a response by the 17th.
I think that's fair.
I don't wanna
That's
present
fair.
again.
No, no.
I mean,
If people
I-
have more questions, they know where to find you.
my only stock in this is to make a recommendation that's sound to the board.
Tom, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, it was just the time element of it. I mean, I feel like it's a good plan. I'd like to move forward with it, but respect Kathleen and trying to think outside the box. If there are alternatives that are not gonna cost us anything, I'd certainly give us time to think about it. But I think that what we need to do is we need to put an end on it, because we can't move along, because it's going to start coming to play regarding the capital project and moves we need to make. So I do think that if Dean's saying the 17th is great, if that's it, and we can look at it in different vantage points, great. But other than that, I'm much more, I feel like it's a good process and gives us flexibility.
Well, if we go to the 17th, can we just go to the April meeting instead? I won't be at the 17th meeting. I won't be at the next one.
We got some great stuff.
I think we know what your vote is.
I'm asking out of respect. I'm asking,
Yeah. You're definitely not at that meeting.
We're pushing out to the.
Sam
we're
plays
pushing out
baseball in
April
his
now.
trout.
Yeah.
It's his freshman year.
Is that gonna affect anything?
No, it's fine.
Is that,
It's
is it
fine.
good? I mean, just time-wise, is what?
Because I'm
what's a
giving you
drop
time,
dead
Time-wise,
name?
I'm
he-
giving you
that's what
time
he's
to
saying.
talk.
He's
I'm
saying
not
it's
stalling my
February.
planning.
It's,
Give me
So
the time to talk.
I think it's good to have time, and I definitely,
Yeah.
I think Kathleen's right out of respect if she's presented a new idea. I do think we need to limit new ideas though, from here on forward, only because it kind of does confuse. I think she's come up with a good thought that perhaps wasn't thought about before. We didn't know how much portables were except for, off the cuff, so, it's something to think about. But, I definitely think that we need to have an answer then at that first April meeting.
And it doesn't have to be a formal presentation of an answer to me. I said the 17th to give you 2 weeks, you can tell me the wishes of the board or the decision of the board with phone call or a text. It's not, I don't want to engage in another formal debate about
We
this.
probably want to
Dean,
have another
will you-
conversation.
That's all.
right, but the people that you met with, Mary Beth, you said the principal, was it all the principals?
It
Will
was-
you have a conversation with them?
It was Kara. Those meetings were about my recommendation to repurpose Layton for this. So it was Kara, Mary Beth, Dave, Rhonda, me, Nancy, Carrie. It was that comprehensive team. Nancy, I'll meet with the facilities committee again and Nancy, and we'll bat around a few other ideas, but I don't want anybody to think that, I haven't tried to think outside of the box and be creative.
What do you
We've
think?
looked at a
what
lot
do you-
of options.
I agree with giving Kathleen some time, but I mean, don't we trust that the group that you met with came up with the best decision that probably led you to this presentation, I'm assuming, right?
Well, I think so, but if you need more time to talk amongst yourself and let me know what you'd like me to do, that's all I'm asking. Mine is a recommendation. You're paying me to give a recommendation to you.
Right, and
And
all
you-
I'm
and you
saying is,
used- and
here's
you
something
used-
that I thought
Give me
of,
some more feedback.
maybe you hadn't thought about that, and
Right.
maybe you would give that a little bit of thought.
Yes,
That's
I'll
all
do
I'm
that.
Wait, why don't we ask, have you thought about that?
I've thought about everything.
So have you vetted this part of the building with,
No.
to see if it?
No, because we just did a capital project to turn this into central office.
That would go over
Which
well in
cost?
public.
Money-wise, he's saying it doesn't
Right.
make any sense.
And
There's-
that's one
I
reason, the
just-
other reason is
So
we
you keep
need
talking about the
wet
money that it would take for
classrooms.
this building, I just don't understand what money it would take. I mean, look at
Nope.
this building.
I'm on
You
the
said
space.
you-
No, but you gotta move the
Space.
offices, and
We'd have to go somewhere.
anytime you're moving offices, it's gonna cost money.
If we,
But that's, I mean, moving offices,
I know.
I'm just asking for you to think about it and take it to your,
Okay. Okay, so we can do that, and if you don't need a formal vote,
Yeah,
then
no.
people can informally send you or me their feelings after they've
Yeah.
taken time to consider, and,
yeah.
um,
I thought it was important to have this conversation in the open.
yeah.
And none of the major stakeholders are going to be surprised about anything they read or see on TV now, because Layton staff knows my recommendation, parents know my recommendation, admin council knows my recommendation, and now the board does, and you can talk about it.
Mary Beth, I know Dean mentioned your name, is there any comments around this? I mean, you guys sat, talked, listened to the recommendation?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah,
You can jump in, as long as you say what I agree with.
Right, so the
I mean,
two,
not necessarily your,
no, just the two.
I'm not putting you on the spot.
Yeah, it's
just-
okay, all right.
It's just,
The
I'd like
two
to hear.
main things we talked about was portables versus middle school coming here. We didn't talk about the third alternative, or fourth or fifth. We didn't talk about other alternatives. So I just want everybody to know that at least that committee talked about portables versus lead. That was all we talked about. And we didn't know the cost of the portables until you might have known it
Recently.
a little more before tonight, but
Yeah.
that's the first time I saw the cost of the portables.
And the conversation around that comprehensive group was about the details associated with how will we make this work, because it's pretty complicated. You gotta have the Layton principal talk with the middle school principal, the facilities person. Jamie Sykett was part of that, certainly, because of technology changes. We're gonna have to raise smart boards for the middle school, and things like that. Mostly in-house work.
You know, part of our role on the board is to make sure that we're fiscally responsible, right, budgeting and those types of things. It's also to look what's best for the kids too, and like, this is tough, but we've been talking about this for years. We've been talking about it for at least the first year when we got on the board. It was a topic of discussion for the board meeting that I was in 3 years ago. So this isn't something new, this isn't something that we've been talking about, and I agree with Tom, that it allows us some flexibility. It's just my personal opinion, when you look at it 2 years down the road, is it a great feeling? No, it's not a great feeling, but the numbers aren't helping us either. So, again, we can hash around a bunch of different ideas, and unfortunately, when you keep doing it, it's all you're doing is delaying, and delaying, and delaying. And again, I think it's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about, but it's been there for years.
And my last thing that I'm gonna say about this is Layton does offer a huge opportunity to the high school students. There are so many high school students that come over here and volunteer. In fact, we've had multiple students that are now teachers that,
That's a true statement.
you know, I mean, Michaela Kearns is one of our teachers in this district who was volunteering, doing her, you know, getting her volunteer hours in at this elementary building, and you're taking away a huge opportunity from the high school as well.
Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Minutes of the regular meeting of January 21st, 2020. Special education,
Oh, yeah.
No, Brian wants to
Ryan,
say
I thought I
I
said.
don't have, I don't have a lot to say, but I do,
He's
you know, I,
he's ready.
Oh, he's,
Right.
he's up that last.
Use your indoor voice.
so Mike counts. I did talk with Kathleen a little bit earlier about this, and I totally hear, I actually got the kitchen piece, I figured that out.
Thank
Got
you.
it. But I also respect, you know, the work that's put in and knowing that we're in a financial piece. So I mean, I'm fine to give time to think, but I think a lot of people, Sam, I agree with you, that I think it's financially, like a lot of you said, it's tough. I mean, it's a lot of money to go about, but I mean, if there's some magical solution, then I'm all ears, because I hate to see it happen this way, but I don't know if we have much of a choice.
I'd like to know financially too, what it would, the cost that you're talking about to do what I'm suggesting.
So it'd be the cost of retrofitting this plus extra classrooms in a portable. So you already have the data for that.
I don't think we wouldn't have it there.
We need to find a location for the ed center and
Yeah,
find out what that would cost.
relocating.
I'll do that in this budget.
Assign it to Nancy. Okay.
okay, we move to consent.
Yes, and can I make a recommendation? Has everybody vetted this? This was vetted like twice, so, as many things as we can combine. I think those with Lakers tickets, appreciate it.
Yeah, many of the items on tonight's agenda are rollovers from our meeting 2 weeks ago that was canceled due to that horrible weather.
Okay, let's see what you do.
Consent
It was
agenda.
terrible, that
It was
day.
bad in the morning.
Minutes of the regular meeting of January 21st, 2020. Special education board reports, February 18, 2020, and March 3rd, 2020. Oswego High School and Middle School extra classroom activities report for January 2020. Fund balance projection to June 30th, 2020. Treasurer's report and budget status report, January 2020. District financial statements, July 2019 to January 2020. If I could have a motion, please.
Move it.
Second? Second.
Sam's gonna be the first and the second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next is curriculum.
And I only have one item, New York State textbook law, below are titles that are being asked to be approved for a Spanish class for New York State textbook money.
Motion?
Move it.
Berenstein Bears in Spanish.
Second.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Personnel?
Okay. The professional appointments are 1 through 9. Most are extra compensatory. Is there anything in particular that I could answer any questions
Or
about?
pull out, or?
I didn't have any issues with 1 through 9 being put together in one motion.
God
Bless you.
bless you. The corona.
If I can have a motion, 1 through 9, please.
Move it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, and then the support staff recommendations are 10 through 12. Leave of absence, a resignation, and permanent appointments.
Could I have a motion for 10 through 12, please?
Move it.
Second?
Any discussion? All in
I
favor?
just, I have a question. Quick question.
There's no time for that.
What number? The unified sports, are they
Oh, goodness.
as needed? And
Yep,
then it
so
shows
number 8 is,
Baseball, they're gonna do baseball?
number 8 for unified sport is the appointment of Annalee Harrell for the nurse as
Nurse.
needed.
She's
Right.
talking about
But
number
underneath,
9.
number 9 says spring
It says
2020
unified
unified
sports.
sports, Tom Farley boys baseball.
Oh.
Man wearing.
Yeah, they're all.
Okay, the title is correct, it just should be sports.
Oh, not unified.
Yes, just strike unified.
Okay.
It should say spring
I
2020
thought we were bringing in
sports.
another unified,
No.
which.
Wrestling.
Yes,
Great, okay.
wrestling was our next.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And
And
over newly.
13 our substitute and temporary employees.
Motion?
Move 'em.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nancy Squires with finance.
One is a donation to the Nurse Scholastic Swim Team. 2 is for a budget transfer from heating supplies to equipment repair. And 3 is an MOA with agribusiness child development at Red Creek for migrant students. So 1 through 3.
Could I have a motion 1 through 3 from Ryan?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
4 is for the board to approve the corrective action plan for the extra classroom activity report. 5 is for the board to approve the annual risk assessment by Bonadio. 6 is a contract with Fox Point Solutions. 7 is a contract with PMA. And 8 is a contract with Buffalo Whopper.
Motion, please?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I did
Opposed?
want to point out that I've invited Thomas Buckle to attend the March 17th board meeting to report.
Oh, excellent. Fantastic.
Next would be items from the board with
I have a couple quick things. First of all, Heather mentioned the unified bowling, and I have attended a couple of the events, and I'll tell you, they're fun and really enjoyable. Kathleen's been there. It's going well. I think they have maybe three more matches here, and then they'll be off until, I think, the end of March, early April, and they'll start unified basketball. So I encourage you to take advantage of going and watching those kids. It's a great experience. And the other thing, it's been a couple of weeks, but Beauty and the Beast. We haven't gotten together since Beauty and the Beast. But I attended the play with my wife, and I'll tell you what, our kids are totally amazing. Amazing. If we don't win some awards, when they give them out, I think it's in May, in Syracuse, they give awards to all the schools that do plays. Those kids are unbelievable. And my kudos to not only the students that participated, but the drama instructors that worked, and everybody involved was great. If you missed it, I'm sorry.
Anyone else?
I do. I was gonna mention Unified also. That's why I was late, because they had a match tonight, and they have another one Thursday at Lighthouse Lanes, and then next week and whatever. But it's really fun to go and watch. I was involved in Special Olympics years ago, and it's just to see the club collaboration between you know, the high school sports and Special Olympics. It's really, it is so much fun to watch. But while we were sitting at Unified, I just wanted to, there was a little girl sitting next to us that was doing homework when Sam and I were sitting there last week. And she was doing a workbook with cursive. And so I asked her mom where she goes to school, and it was Kingsford, and it's an extra credit thing. And I just think that's incredible. I know Mary's not here, but I appreciate the fact that that school, somebody, I don't know if it was the principal or the teacher, and I don't know if the other elementaries are doing it, but I appreciate it because I think that was a huge loss when the state pulled out cursive from us.
Go ahead. I have something else.
You can't. You had yours at the beginning.
I'm a board member.
The only other thing is, Dean, I was just hoping that you could update us either in an email, if we don't want to do it tonight, or maybe the April meeting, about the PE, the way that was rolled out, and I know there's some confusion. So I'm just wondering if that's straightened out.
In fact, I'm glad you brought that up, and I will address it now. There is some confusion with how it was rolled out. Pat Wallace originally started rolling it out, and then I asked Rhonda to kind of jump in and help clarify the process. And there still are questions. In fact, I got an email from our board rep. I'll read it to you. Tell me if you read it.
Well, I can just tell you, she was wondering if her Washington trip was considered a reason that she wouldn't have to make up her PE.
Yeah.
And it's not a school-sponsored trip, but it's definitely educational.
Yes.
So would it be?
Okay, she asked me. Dr. Gilroy, hello, I hope you're doing well. I have a question about the new gym policy, but I unfortunately won't be at the board meeting on Tuesday. Ask you in person, I'd like to know whether or not trips with non-school related organization are included in this policy, as I recently attended a conference in Washington, in DC, with an organization resulting in me missing a couple gyms. Thank you. And I said, wait for it.
I'm going to.
Ruma, my understanding is that if you have a note from a parent that is a legitimate reason and educationally sound, and you're a student in good standing, questionable for you, smiley face, no makeup should be required.
Well, because I think Brian addressed this when he said it, when I take kids for Youth Bureau, will it be covered? Yeah, and obviously it would be.
But we actually talked about it in Albany, I won't say with one elected official, but when I told them what happens here, not here in general, they weren't pleased.
So I think we've,
No, in other words, the elected official said, are you telling me to the students that you being here today, you have, consequences to make up from? And they're all like, yes, and they're like, oh, good.
Yeah.
So as long as it is an excused absence, and there's a note, then that's all it
And
takes.
they're a student in good standing, and it makes perfect sense. Common sense should rule.
But there was a
part of it was the athletic part of it. So if a student missed phys ed for a doctor's appointment, whatever, came back, they had to make up gym, and yet they had 3 hours of practice that night for a sport that they're playing. It was supposed to alleviate some of that too. I mean, I go back to the way the middle school does it. I know I keep bringing you up, but the way the middle school does it is great.
That's what they did. They went to, if you're in a sport and you have an excused absence, no makeup required.
Okay, because
if you aren't in a sport, then you have a
wasn't-
form that your parent can fill out
That's
for
right.
alternative activity.
Okay.
So that's what we've gone to.
That was my
And any
understanding, that
excused
was the
absence.
directive.
Okay, that was my understanding too, but
Yeah.
I was hearing from parents that that's not what it was happening. And
Which
so
is why I
that's
asked
what
Rhonda
we're
to intervene. It sounds like I need to meet with Rhonda on a variety of things.
Well, and I think another note needs to go home, because the note that,
Just to clear, it was
the
very small.
clarification that came
Even
home was not, because it also made it sound like if your child's sick, you have to have a doctor's note. And that cannot possibly be true. If a parent writes, my kid was sick,
Right.
that should be enough.
And they're in good standing. You can, this is what I like.
Can I just say it?
We don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, not at all.
You have 3 minutes.
I think you just need to clarify to parents, because
Yes.
the letter that came home, because I agree there also,
Yeah.
the whole top of the letter was about something else.
Yeah.
And then at the bottom, like only this much of the letter explained the PE policy, and it, like even I was in the meeting with you,
Right.
with Rhonda and Pat. I didn't
Right.
even understand the bottom.
Yeah.
So,
It
And
was.
you know, have you seen the letter,
Another-
Heidi? It's just a little bit at the bottom.
More information.
Yeah.
I just think it
Okay,
made more.
we're just gonna send another one,
Yeah.
I think, out that
We'll
everybody
clarify.
understands, yeah.
I'll
I
do a
think
roll
that's
call.
very,
Can you put it on the website too, somewhere?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep,
yeah. That brings it
I
back.
think it is.
Did you were gonna bring something up when I was talking about unified and cursive, you said, oh, wait.
Oh, yeah, your comment about cursive, and I know there's a lot of interest and certainly a lot of chatter around public schools in New York and certainly in Oswego about cursive writing not being in the New York State standards, and we don't teach cursive writing anymore. But, and Carrie and Heidi, you're gonna be so mad at me about this, but,
Oh, no.
as you know, Oswego is the leader in the K-3, pre-K-3 literacy initiative for the county. It was our literacy task force that made the recommendation to go to the work with the Reading League. And that was adopted by all 9 component school districts, and that is our model for primary through grade 3, pre-K through grade 3 literacy instruction. But we received some feedback from teachers and that, you know, there are times in our schools when we have lost the craft of writing.
Right.
And I'm talking about primary teachers necessarily. We know that the science of reading is what current research says is most important, and we do believe that. But several years ago, when we lost our director of literacy, we also lost our sponsorship of the SUNY Oswego City School District Writing Institute at the college. It was taken by Fulton. Well, we've taken it back. So this summer, we're gonna have this is a big deal.
It is a big deal. No, it's the next one,
Copy it
yeah.
on.
It's the way you said it.
No, we're taking it back. No, because it's really important.
Yeah, where to go?
So, you know, Nancy's worried about money and so am I, and they're like, don't do it. But I met with Pam Michael, the dean of the School of Education, with Carrie and Nancy. And I think it's important to send the message that we are still the leaders in literacy in this county, and we can redesign the Oswego County Writing Institute to promote writing as a craft and the love of writing and authors. And so this summer will be the SUNY Oswego Writing Institute.
And are you saying that the literacy initiative that you referenced in the beginning, based on feedback from teachers, we're making tweaks to?
Well, we're opening up the possibility of particularly 7th through intermediate and 7th through 12th grade students engaging more deeply in creative writing and the study of authors. That it's not the Writing Institute versus a more holistic approach. It's about what science tells us is the best approach for literacy, and we want to send the message that we still support the Writing Institute and creative writing and the study of great authors, and so we're back in.
But basic grammar, I mean, that's kind of fell to the wayside. I mean, just from my kids graduating from this district and going to college.
Because of this.
It is, yeah, they don't know
U is you,
basic
R
grammar.
is R.
Yeah.
What?
All right, so
They
just
don't know
a,
what a paragraph
I didn't mean to
is.
open up a can of worms.
no, that's okay.
That was supposed to be good news.
It is good news.
It is good.
It is good news, it's excellent news.
Okay.
Very quickly then, a couple of other things. We, just want to talk about city rep, we need is there anyone on the board who is interested in representing our district on the city OCs?
Heather, excuse me, it cannot be a sitting board member. It has to be someone from the community.
So we need,
Cindy Bosse's board.
but we approve it.
Yes.
So we
Brian
need
Hessig
to,
is
we need
coming
to have
on.
nominations.
Didn't he want?
It's my understanding that because we don't, Chris Todd notified us that there was an opening in Oswego.
Yeah.
So I assumed that was.
Because he served his term.
Okay,
Served his
so we need to get nominations is what we do, and we're on kind of a time frame, right?
Yes, I need to know, it needs to go to the board at the next board meeting to approve that name, so I can send it out to City BOCES.
So.
Or, excuse me, a recommendation from the board by next board meeting.
Yes.
And then, in April, there'll be a special meeting to vote on the city
Right.
budget plus their board.
Oh, I have an idea. Why don't you do it from, let's get rid of you
We
sooner.
discussed
We
that,
talked about
actually.
I'm an employee of the district through August,
And
and
then,
then
he's
after
moving.
August, I won't be a
Then he's
residency.
moving. Okay, so I mixed up my notes here. What I wanna know, is there anyone from, you talked about the House representing, representative, the representation that you were coming off of that committee. What's that?
Wellness, Sam.
The
The
wellness.
wellness committee.
Is anybody on the board interested in representing the district
How often does it meet?
on the wellness committee?
As needed,
Quarterly?
quarterly.
I can do that. I can do that.
Kathleen?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, and it's getting late. We were gonna address the
Yeah,
community
We
committee.
could do that next time. I
Is there, so Tom actually has, a mission statement he would like vetted and some thoughts about the community committee. Can you get it to people
I
so they
can give
can
every one of these,
consider it?
I made copies, I can give everybody one of these, consider it for next time, and go from there.
And we'll chat about it at the next meeting.
I
Would that
did
be
want to
okay?
say one thing though, and I won't take forever with it, but I heard about it, I thought it's a wonderful little idea. And I'm just crazy that way. But I heard about this project where they took a shipping container and made it into the world's smallest museum, world's tiniest museum, and then they would take it around to schools. And they would put it outside to expose kids to culture and museums because it's stimulating aspect of it. I think they did it in Brooklyn or in the Bronx. They did it in New York City. And I thought it was pretty fascinating, but I thought that'd be kind of cool because they made it about mollusks, the world's smallest mollusk museum, because they're small. Anyway, so what I thought is if we made looked at a science lab though, and a science lab that was portable that could go around and be parked at each school to let.
The old bookmobile.
Well, I don't know about the old bookmobile, but something, and it could be taken around to each school, and we could let the kids that are in the, come up with a class, so it's interactive, but it would park at each school, it would travel around to give exposure to sciences. It was just an idea, and I thought, wow, that'd be interesting, I'd like to do some research on it.
Well, the bookmobile just got a grant to buy,
Upgrade a new one.
upgrade a new one, so
Right.
that one,
Would be available potentially. I can reach out and find about that, but I want to know what everybody else thought about it, I thought it was.
There's a
Well.
reason they're updating it.
It doesn't run.
They ain't going
to tow it.
oh,
It sounds like a very neat
It's
idea, Tom.
struggling.
It probably comes down to finances and if you
Right.
get a grant for it or.
Fine, I'd do some looking into it. I just thought it was fascinating because the idea of the stimulation, because they're not, how many times they have a science lab? And whatever experiments could be drawn up by the students, say at the high school, and they work to teach it or to explain it as well.
That's right.
You know, you could do, Tom, is you could do a whole bus instead of keep a bus that Nancy auctions off for the district.
Yeah, that'd be potential.
I got a heat.
Or call it smart weekend. All right, cool.
Okay, I was sorry I had to miss the Layton kickoff yesterday for their literacy program too. I had a health issue with my own family, but really appreciate all those extra efforts and I hope this week is exciting for the kids as they do that. And then lastly for me, Carrie, did you look into the local history concept for literacy as well?
I've been talking about it,
Okay.
just kind of kicking it around. We didn't get the grant because the bookmobile got the grant. With all District 3, so I'm gotta kick around. I asked her to see if there are other grants out there that we could use to do it all.
So maybe in a meeting we have a little more time, we can talk in more depth about that, okay.
I just want to mention one other thing. We did go down, because it's been that long since we've met, but I did go down to Albany on that thing with NISPA to meet with the representatives. I know Jen went the other day too. And we brought the legislation down to change regarding the pilots, so that we could start a nuclear reserve fund. But I think it's important, you know, Jen went down, we went down. I think it's important, again, this could come from community relations. They've expressed to other people in the community to make those phone calls to Patty Ritchie, to Will Barkley, to express about aid, you know, because it can't come from enough people repetitively. People at home, watching at home, pick up the phone, call, put up a number right here, call them, literally call them and tell them education is important, tell them the aid from the government is important, and you know, and to just push it wherever we can.
You know, I wonder if it's something our government classes could do with their students. Write that particular
Yeah.
letter. It would
We
be a
did.
pretty good teaching opportunity.
We did it with home and school.
We did a letter in 2016.
And I think it was.
We drafted a letter and we bombarded them with
What was the issue?
state aid.
State aid?
State aid?
Yeah. day to
But this
day
in
than the formula.
particular is so interesting because it's unique to our community,
Yeah.
how the formula relates to the new plan, so it'd be a real
That was part of the
teachable
letter that
moment.
we.
Yes,
I might
it
have that
was.
letter.
You must still have that.
We generated, it was sent out by
You must
Okta,
still have
it was sent out by AAP, yeah, it would be in my electronic files.
Heather, one of your kids did it before, remember?
Yeah, and that's,
And
it
that
was so
was
empowering for the
with all
kids
the
to be
social
able to get,
justice.
to get involved in that way, that I think
Yeah.
this would be another opportunity for that, so it'd be exciting.
Any other items?
Any other items?
Is there a need for an executive session?
I hope not.
Could I have
How late is Sam?
No.
Kathleen first, second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? May adjourn.